Imagine waking up to a world that has already changed. Not because of nuclear explosions, not because of an invasion, but because of a single short message from global news agencies. Direct military contact has occurred between US and Chinese forces in the South China Sea. This is the answer to the question, what if China and the US went to war? But it's only the surface of the answer. Because in reality, the true war begins long before the first shot is recorded. During the first 60 seconds after the incident, there are no missiles, no smoke, no fire. There is only silence. A silence in which Asian and Western stock markets begin to fall faster than during the 2008 crisis. A silence in which millions of people frantically refresh their news feeds. A silence in which governments across the planet call emergency meetings. And the most disturbing detail, both China and the United States refuse to release any official statement. This creates the first wave of global panic. No one knows whether the attack was an accident or the beginning of the most dangerous conflict of the 21st century. But even this moment is not the real threat. Because while the world watches headlines, something happens deep beneath the ocean. Something no civilian will ever see on television. An American Virginia-class submarine abruptly changes course. At the same time, hundreds of kilometers away, a Chinese underwater platform, one whose signal was lost 2 years ago, suddenly reappears. And here we introduce the core intrigue that will carry through the entire film. The first attack is only a distraction. The real war begins in places no ordinary person is watching. And what is happening right now underwater will determine not just the outcome of the conflict, but the fate of global civilization. While global media arguments explode over who fired first, American satellites detect the disappearance of an entire Chinese naval group. Not destroyed, not sunk, but vanished. As if erased from radar. Simultaneously, Beijing registers unusual bursts of radio silence around Guam. The kind of pattern that appears only when someone is preparing a massive operation. And the viewer begins to understand. What we're seeing is just the shadow. The true cause of this conflict has not yet been revealed. This is where our story begins. A journey through the real reasons the US and China could enter large-scale conflict. The technologies ready to use in the first hours of war. Why the actual battle would look nothing like the movies, and what both sides are hiding from the rest of the world. And most importantly, by the end, you will receive the complete and final answer to the question we said at the beginning. Who would win? How long would such a war last? And could the world survive its consequences? We begin.
The world has not yet seen a single missile fired, but the battle has already begun. Not on the surface, not in the headlines, but in realms invisible to the public eye. In cyberspace, deep beneath the oceans, and inside command centers where every decision could ripple across the globe. Within minutes of the South China Sea incident, American and Chinese military networks are alive with motion. Automated systems track every naval maneuver, every aircraft launch, every encrypted transmission. Satellites orbit silently overhead, detecting subtle shifts in ship formations, unusual energy emissions, and anomalous underwater signatures. Analysts compare these readings with decades of historical patterns, searching for clues in a data storm that no human brain could process alone. At the same time, thousands of kilometers away, government offices across the world convene emergency meetings. Economists, strategists, and intelligence officials attempt to understand what is happening. The financial markets, reacting faster than human intuition allows, tumble and spike in chaotic patterns, reflecting global uncertainty in digital blips. A single algorithm interprets a minor signal incorrectly, triggering billions in automated trades. The world's economies shiver, completely unaware that the first real strikes will not come from missiles, but from calculation and deception. Beneath the ocean, Virginia-class submarines glide silently through deep currents. Their hulls are coated with materials designed to absorb sonar waves, their paths known only to a handful of commanders. Chinese underwater platforms, long thought lost or abandoned, awaken from silence, transmitting bursts of encrypted data to command centers hundreds of miles away. The water itself becomes a battlefield, a three-dimensional chessboard where every maneuver carries the weight of nations. And yet, nothing visible has occurred. Civilians see only the news feeds, the urgent flashes of statements, the rising tensions. But in reality, every movement is deliberate. Each submarine course correction, each subtle electronic interference, each microsecond of encrypted communication is a signal, a test of reactions, a probe to measure readiness, and a strategic placement that could determine the outcome of a full-scale war. Cyber operations begin simultaneously. Both sides deploy automated defenses and offensive systems designed to cripple communications, disrupt navigation, and manipulate information. Firewalls become the first lines of defense. Hackers, guided by AI, probe critical infrastructure, attempting to sow doubt, misdirection, and paralysis. The first shots are not physical, they are digital, invisible, and devastating in their consequences. Even in the air, the patterns are subtle. Reconnaissance drones patrol strategic corridors, their sensors mapping electromagnetic signatures, fuel consumption, and thermal anomalies. Every flight path, every sensor ping, every silent observation is calculated to reveal the opponent's intentions without revealing your own. And yet the world below watches none of it. They see only the rising tension, the occasional diplomatic statement, the anxious reports of market instability. Meanwhile, the human element remains critical. Commanders at sea and on land receive fragments of intelligence, some accurate, some intentionally misleading. They must decide, in hours that feel like minutes, whether to escalate, to hold, or to counteract phantom threats. Misinterpretation could trigger disaster. Hesitation could invite it. Every choice is a high-stakes gamble, where a single misstep could lead to irreversible consequences. In this silent, unseen war, the concept of victory is no longer about territory or military might alone. It is about control of information, mastery over technology, and anticipation of human behavior under pressure. The first physical confrontation, if it ever comes, will be the result of months, perhaps years, of preparation, deception, and experimentation executed in the shadows. And the world waits, unaware that the most critical battles are invisible and that the true measure of power is not in firepower alone, but in foresight, calculation, and the ability to act before anyone realizes what is happening. The tension is relentless. Every signal, every movement, every silence carries weight. And as the hours pass, the realization slowly dawns. What appears on the surface as a sudden military clash is merely a symptom of a deeper, far more complex strategy. One that will shape not just the outcome of a confrontation, but the future of global civilization itself.
As the hours stretch into the first day, the silent war beneath the oceans and across networks becomes a symphony of unseen mechanisms, each one calibrated to respond with precision. What the world sees as tension and uncertainty is merely the surface effect of systems operating at speeds and scales beyond human comprehension.
American engineers monitor the Virginia-class submarine's movements not just through sonar, but through an integrated network of AI-assisted sensors capable of predicting enemy positions before they appear. Every sonar ping, every pressure change, every minor fluctuation in ocean currents is fed into algorithms designed to calculate the optimal path for stealth, speed, and strategic advantage. Meanwhile, China's deep-sea platforms, long abandoned and officially lost, have reactivated with autonomous modules capable of scanning the surrounding waters, relaying data back to command centers hidden under layers of encryption. These platforms operate like underwater fortresses, armed not only with torpedoes, but with electronic countermeasures that can blind enemy sensors in milliseconds. But this is not just a battle of machines against machines. Every system is designed to exploit human reaction time, predict decision-making patterns, and manipulate perceptions. In cyber corridors, AI-driven programs infiltrate communications networks, spreading misinformation, simulating phantom attacks, and subtly shifting the perception of threat. A single corrupted data stream could mislead commanders into moving fleets into traps, or trigger automated responses that escalate the conflict before anyone fully understands what has happened. Above water, unmanned reconnaissance drones crisscross contested zones. Their cameras scan thermal signatures, electromagnetic disturbances, and sonar reflections. The intelligence they gather is processed by neural networks that evaluate risk in real time, determining the most effective points to strike or defend. Pilots are no longer needed to observe. Humans serve as overseers, interpreting exceptions, while machines handle calculation and execution at impossible speeds. Meanwhile, on land, command centers operate like the central nervous systems of invisible armies. Every move, every sensor reading, every intelligence fragment is fed into advanced decision support systems. Algorithms weigh probabilities, suggest strategies, and even anticipate the likely countermoves of the adversary. For the commanders, the challenge is not merely controlling forces, but trusting the judgment of machines while accounting for the unpredictable nature of human error. Yet the greatest danger does not lie in the machinery itself. It lies in the convergence of speed, secrecy, and uncertainty. Each side tests the other, probing weaknesses, planting illusions, and responding to invisible maneuvers. The world may see a standoff, but beneath the surface, fleets are repositioned, communication lines rerouted, and cyber weapons primed. A single misinterpretation, a delayed order, a corrupted signal could ignite open conflict within minutes. And still, the media debates only what it can see. Which aircraft carrier is closest? Which missile silo is online? Which statement is more aggressive? The public cannot comprehend that the war has already begun, not with explosions, but with decisions executed in nanoseconds and maneuvers invisible to the naked eye. As night falls over the Pacific, the shadows deepen. Submarines glide silently. Autonomous systems continue their calculations, and human strategists watch, waiting, aware that the first visible strike will be the culmination of an invisible, meticulously calculated chain of actions. Every ship, every drone, every server in every command center is a piece in a puzzle too vast to be fully understood by any one person, and yet each piece could determine the fate of nations. This is the machinery of modern war, precise, relentless, and utterly invisible. And for anyone watching only the headlines, the true scale of what has begun is beyond imagination.
The first visible signs of conflict appear not in headlines, but in the faintest tremors across the Pacific. Submarines, having maneuvered undetected for hours, finally signal positions that could influence future engagements. American and Chinese commanders adjust their strategies based on micro changes in sonar readings, currents, and vessel movements, a hidden choreography invisible to the world above. Air corridors, once thought secure, now carry the presence of stealth drones. They map enemy assets, track supply lines, and test responses. Each observation is a potential trigger, a small variable that could escalate into a larger confrontation. The world sees only routine patrols or ambiguous military exercises, unaware that these maneuvers are part of a meticulously orchestrated test of readiness and reaction. Meanwhile, cyber operations intensify.
automated scripts probe communication networks for vulnerabilities. AI-driven programs simulate attacks, disrupt sensor feeds, and create phantom signals that mislead human operators. In one instance, a minor breach in a satellite communication system causes a ripple effect, forcing recalibrations in both navies' positioning. This digital chess game unfolds at speeds far beyond human cognition, and every unnoticed error carries consequences potentially more lethal than conventional weapons. On land, command centers operate like nerve centers, receiving streams of fragmented intelligence. Analysts must sift fact from deception, often making split-second decisions based on incomplete or misleading data. The pressure is enormous. A single misjudgment could result in catastrophic escalation. Yet despite the invisible struggle, political leaders remain publicly restrained, projecting calm even as the machinery of war hums relentlessly behind the scenes. Underwater, autonomous Chinese platforms execute maneuvers that temporarily cut off the detection capability of an American submarine group. The disruption is subtle, unrecorded by public censors, yet it forces a recalibration of U.S. naval strategies. In these moments, it becomes clear the battlefield is not defined by geography alone, but by who controls information, perception, and timing. Economies respond almost instinctively. Markets fluctuate in reaction to faint rumors and algorithmic misinterpretations. Energy prices spike, supply chains jitter, and investor panic spreads faster than any missile ever could. The civilian world experiences consequences of the war long before witnessing its military manifestations. The first small, deliberate strikes occur, targeted cyber disruptions, temporary communications blackouts, and localized reconnaissance confrontations. There is no dramatic explosion, no cinematic exchange of fire. Instead, the conflict plays out as a series of invisible blows, each testing defenses and probing weaknesses. This is the war of the 21st century, indirect, pervasive, and incomprehensible to anyone relying solely on traditional understanding of combat. Even as analysts attempt to quantify the unfolding scenario, they realize that predictions are precarious. Every action triggers a cascade of reactions, each partially anticipated, each partially unknown. The line between preparation and engagement blurs. The first flames are not in fire or smoke, but in uncertainty, in the cascading effects of invisible maneuvers, and in the silent reshaping of strategic advantage. And as night falls across the Pacific, the grim reality sets in. The war has begun not with a single decisive blow, but with 1,000 imperceptible strikes, each silently pushing the world closer to open confrontation. The true challenge for both superpowers is no longer simply winning battles. It is surviving the unseen mechanisms of escalation that have already begun.
The invisible war now begins to leave traces the world can no longer ignore. Small flashes of confrontation ripple through strategic regions, each event amplified by both human error and automated response systems. The South China Sea, once a corridor of trade and diplomacy, becomes a theater of silent maneuvers and covert tests of capability. American destroyers, repositioned hours earlier based on AI predictions, detect anomalous signals that indicate the movement of Chinese unmanned vessels. Every detection triggers recalibrations, countermeasures, and adjustments, a complex dance of anticipation and reaction. Yet the media reports only minor incidents at sea, missing the underlying choreography that could define the war's trajectory. On land, command centers operate in high-alert mode. Analysts interpret fragmented satellite images, encrypted transmissions, and intercepted communications. Each piece of intelligence is weighed against the possibility of deception. A single misinterpretation could cascade into open conflict, and with automated weapon systems integrated into every layer of strategy, even a minor misstep
risks triggering unintended escalation. Cyber operations have reached unprecedented levels. Entire communication grids are now at risk. Power plants, transport networks, and financial hubs are probed, tested, and sometimes temporarily disrupted. The cyber battlefield grows invisible but omnipresent. Cities thousands of miles from the front lines experience ripple effects, localized power outages, communication delays, and sudden market fluctuations. Civilian populations feel the consequences before they see the military manifestations. Under the ocean, autonomous submarines and deep-sea platforms execute coordinated maneuvers, creating zones of influence and testing defensive perimeters. Both sides exploit currents, thermal layers, and underwater geography to mask their true positions. The ocean becomes an intricate three-dimensional battlefield where visibility is nearly non-existent, and the rules of engagement are determined more by algorithms than by human perception. Meanwhile, drones and reconnaissance aircraft patrol contested zones, scanning, recording, and transmitting every micro-movement. Their intelligence feeds into AI systems that calculate probabilities, optimize strategies, and simulate potential outcomes. Human commanders observe, advise, and sometimes intervene, but the speed and complexity of operations increasingly exceed human comprehension. Economic consequences accelerate. Automated trading systems react to minimal changes in market sentiment, causing sharp fluctuations. Energy, shipping, and technology sectors all experience stress, demonstrating that modern warfare is no longer limited to military fronts. It is systemic, global, and immediate. The invisible war is already influencing lives long before visible battles erupt. And yet, despite all precautions and calculations, the tension reaches a tipping point. Misdirected signals, deceptive intelligence, and rapid automated responses create localized skirmishes. Ships exchange warning maneuvers. Submarines evade detection while probing enemy zones. Cyber attacks temporarily disable critical sensors, leading to moments of uncertainty that could escalate at any second. The lesson becomes clear. The first true escalation is not the result of a single strike or decisive battle. It is the cumulative effect of invisible maneuvers, high-speed calculations, and human decisions under unprecedented pressure. Each action, reaction, and countermeasure adds to a feedback loop that grows increasingly difficult to control. By now, it is apparent that the war is no longer theoretical. Every system, every vessel, every algorithm is a participant, and the question that began as a speculation, what if China and the US went to war, has transformed into a reality that the world is only beginning to comprehend. The stakes have expanded from military objectives to global stability, and the outcome of each invisible engagement carries consequences far beyond the immediate conflict.
Weeks have passed since the first silent maneuvers beneath the South China Sea. What began as invisible probes and subtle tests has escalated into a sprawling, multi-dimensional confrontation, yet not in the way most imagined. There are no rolling battlefields, no cinematic explosions. The war has unfolded in the hidden infrastructure of the modern world, where technology, information, and human decision-making intersect in unpredictable ways. Submarines glide through ocean currents, their courses calculated with precision by AI systems that anticipate every move of their adversaries. Deep-sea platforms, autonomous and heavily fortified, relay encrypted data and control undersea drones capable of rapid, devastating strikes. Each side reacts not to visible threats, but to probabilities, predictions, and patterns of behavior that may or may not exist. The ocean itself has become a battlefield, invisible to satellites, invisible to civilians, yet capable of changing the fate of nations in hours. In cyberspace, the war reaches new heights. Communication networks, power grids, transportation systems, and financial exchanges are manipulated,
disrupted, and defended with relentless intensity. Automated attacks and countermeasures create cascading effects, localized blackouts, sudden financial instability, and temporary isolation of critical infrastructure. The civilian world experiences these consequences indirectly, unaware that the chaos stems from a war fought in lines of code and machine-driven logic. Above-ground drones and reconnaissance aircraft patrol every critical zone. AI systems calculate optimal surveillance routes, assess threats, and suggest responses in milliseconds. Human operators watch and interpret, but the speed and complexity of operations far exceed any single human's capacity. Decisions must be made under extreme pressure, with incomplete and sometimes deliberately misleading information. A single error could trigger a chain reaction whose effects ripple globally. The geopolitical impact is profound. Supply chains falter, markets tumble and surge unpredictably. Nations previously uninvolved feel economic, technological, and political tremors. Alliances are tested not on the battlefield, but in strategy rooms and digital networks, where perception often outweighs physical presence. The world realizes that modern warfare is systemic. It touches every facet of society, every corner of the planet, and every network upon which humanity depends. And yet, even amidst this unprecedented chaos, there is a strange order. Each movement, each countermeasure, each calculation is part of a larger, concealed strategy. Leaders, military commanders, and AI systems engage in a high-stakes dance of anticipation and deception. The first visible confrontations, localized skirmishes, and brief flashes of conflict are overshadowed by the invisible battles that dictate their outcomes. The ultimate question, who would win, is revealed not in a single decisive battle, but in endurance, adaptability, and control of the unseen domains of war. Victory is not solely about firepower. It is about foresight, decision-making under uncertainty, and mastery of technology as both weapon and shield. And the answer to the question that began this journey, could the world survive, is sobering. Civilization itself is not destroyed, but it is forever changed. Infrastructure, economies, and trust in institutions bear the scars of invisible warfare. Humanity witnesses the emergence of a new paradigm, a world where wars are fought simultaneously in physical, digital, and informational domains, and where the consequences of each invisible engagement can ripple across generations. In the end, the war between China and the United States teaches a critical lesson. In the 21st century, conflict is no longer defined by explosions or armies alone. It is measured by control, perception, and the silent power of unseen forces. The surface is only the shadow. The true war lies beneath, in the currents, the networks, and the calculations that govern modern civilization. The world has endured the first reckoning, but the question remains, how prepared is humanity for the next?